we are a suicide prevention community who are about 7 to 8 weeks away, hopefully, fingers crossed if everything goes well, from being a charity. I came back to the UK and I had a week with my mum, and then unfortunately she passed away, which rocked my world massively. Grief, how do you even start and where do you go with it? And I just didn't know what to do. I got to boiling point and I burst, and I just said, lads, I've been really struggling here. And then two of the other lads in our group spoke up that they've been struggling at different things as well, and none of us knew about it. When I first posted it, I just posted a bit of my truth on Instagram with the logo, and it blew up, because what makes a man has changed.
And really, no one knows what's going on behind closed doors. Hi there, and I hope you're well today, and welcome back to another episode of The People Who Do Good. On this really special episode today, I wanted to discuss another topic which I don't feel very personally clued up on, which is men's mental health. I feel in the world that we're currently living in, mental health issues are becoming one of the most talked about topics that we're still not finding a solution to. So that's why I wanted to bring on my next guest today, who is the fantastic Luke Barrow. Luke is the founder of 2 Pints Deep, which is a men's mental health and suicide prevention charity. So I thought it was really important today for Luke to come on and discuss this topic with me further.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm good.
Good.
So Luke is the founder and creator of 2 Pints Deep.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is,
so we are a suicide prevention community who are about 7 to 8 weeks away, hopefully, fingers crossed if everything goes well, from being a charity. So we're going to be a suicide prevention charity with a big focus on men's mental health, because as you put so well in the intro, it's a topic and a subject that needs talking about, and it needs action rather than just awareness to this point, and that's what we hope to do as a charity.
Absolutely. And from my research, it's a free-to-use platform where men can get help and seek guidance that they're looking for who are struggling. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. So I think a big factor, based off my experience of my own mental health and my journey, was that when I got to a point that I did feel like I could reach out for help, I didn't know where to go. So a big problem that we wanted to solve at 2 Pints Deep is reducing, I guess, the length of that process of wanting to reach out and wanting to know what's out there, but also being able to see what's out there. And that's the hardest thing, I think. And I found one or two places I could go, but there is so much going on in this area, and so many communities, so many charities doing brilliant things that could help. They just don't have a platform to be able to find those places. So what we really do is create safe spaces as much as we can through our communities within certain areas of the UK. And then when people feel they have the confidence, they build the confidence up around speaking about their mental health, we can then signpost them to other amazing places that are doing similar things.
That is so cool. If you could take me right back to the beginning, Luke. We're going to start from the top. Why did you create 2 Pints Deep?
Yes, so we're going back 5 years. And it'll be, around this time 5 years ago, actually, if not maybe a couple of days ago, I was living and working over in Australia. So I was playing football over there, living on the beach, living with friends that I'm still very, very close with, living a life that I thought was a dream life. It was the best.
Like it.
It was the best. But back at home, my mum had been suffering from cancer and been battling that successfully, and then it sort of came back over 2 years. And I got a call about 5 years ago last week from my dad. And he said, Luke, we've had another scan. The cancer's not looking good. We think you should come home. So quit my job, cancelled football contract, on the next flight home, even left some clothes there. It was that quick it was that quick a turnaround. And I came back to the UK and I had a week with my mum, and then unfortunately she passed away, which rocked my world massively. I'd gone from living my perfect life to the life that I thought couldn't exist and hated the thought of existing within a week. It was wild. And I didn't really know how to act or what to do. I'd lived abroad for 2 years, so the connections that I had with my friends that were in the UK weren't as strong as they've ever have been.
Right, yeah.
And I'm coming back into a situation that I'm just not been used to, and it's quite alien to me, really, and living with parents and that type of stuff, or at that point, parents. So went back to living with my dad, rural village in Lancashire.
Wow.
Arse end of nowhere, to be honest with you. And grief. How do you even start and where do you go with it? And I just didn't know what to do. I thought the best thing I could do was just be all right for my dad. So my feelings were boxed off, locked away, pushed to the side. And I just wanted to be all right for my dad. And I didn't really talk about my mum's death or do much about it for the next sort of 6-9 months. And over that period of time, it absolutely ate me up. And because I'd left it for a period of time at the start, I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know if they wanted to hear it. Like, had I missed my chance to actually talk about this type of stuff? Everyone had gone back to their normal lives again. And I went through long periods of depression, social anxiety, didn't want to go out, didn't want people to ask how I was because I didn't actually know how I was going to react.
And also you don't want to talk about it.
Exactly. And over that period of time, I developed sort of online gambling issues as well. So type of stuff that would just take me away from where I was in the current situation and just take me into another place. So, but it all kind of came to a head. So to bring it back round to 2 Pints Deep, because I've been talking a little bit.
No, please do.
I sat at a party with my friends and we'd all had a couple of drinks and something rose inside me and I was like, I'm going to tell them about all my stuff here.
Right.
And maybe it was the alcohol. I don't know, but I kind of just, I got to boiling point and I burst and I just said, lads, I've been really struggling here. And they listened, we spoke a little bit, and then 2 of the other lads in our group spoke up that they've been struggling at different things as well. And none of us knew about it. And I was like, what's our friendship? Why couldn't I open up? Yeah. I've known you guys all like for all my life, well, not all my life, a good few years. And it's taken someone to open up for the rest of us to actually have a conversation about it. And we're all struggling just in silence. I was like, there's something not right about that. So what I wanted to do is try and recreate and build confidence in a safe space that we don't need those drinks to have to talk like that.
Yeah.
So what that safe space to me was called and what we all had in common at that point was 2 Pints Deep.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think it's quite relatable to a lot of people around the country who have drunk alcohol before, maybe don't now, or do still drink alcohol, that it's a little bit of a magic feeling that
it is.
That
makes
second
you feel
pint.
A bit more confident, makes you just takes the edge off a bit.
It is,
absolutely.
yeah. And that's where it kind of came from, the name, and it took me a year and a half to actually commit to it.
Did it?
It did, yeah. And then I tried to launch it as a podcast.
Did you?
But not to steal your thing. I'm not coming for it.
Please do.
And then it kind of just, when I first posted it, I just posted a bit of my truth on Instagram with the logo, and it blew up, and people just started sharing it, and it was 5,000 followers in 5 days. And I was
5,000 followers you got how in a week?
5 days, yeah. And I was like, what is this? I'm working full time. Like people messaging me because we put it as an anonymous messaging service as well for lads to message in, to have a chat with a normal lad who's been through similar stuff.
Absolutely.
Not from a therapeutic background, not from anything like that. And then we had all these messages, influx messages, and 23,000 likes on the post, people sharing it and saying, this is what we need. And I was just like, okay.
When you say we, were you the only one, Luke, running 2 Pints Deep?
Yeah.
So you're very overwhelmed at this point.
Well, now we have a wonderful team of volunteers that give me a couple of hours a week. They're still full-time in their jobs, but I worked on 2 Pints Deep for 2.5 years alongside a job, and then it all got a bit too much.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was like, right, money or purpose, what are we going for here? And I decided to go purpose. So about 10 weeks ago now, I quit my full-time job whilst living in London.
Yeah.
To take 2 Pints Deep.
You're living in London, you've quit your stable corporate job to throw yourself into something that is so important, Luke. And also, just like think about your mum. She would be so proud of you right now. It's a topic that's just not covered, and all because you spoke out one night with your mates. This is you now speaking about this. What was life like growing up at school with your friends? Did you ever hear much about men's mental health?
No.
Or mental health in particular?
No.
No.
And I speak about this quite a lot as a journey for myself within mental health, and the difference, because I'm fascinated by why we're in the position we're in as men. And I've kind of reassessed and gone back and looked over when I was younger, and like what did I do differently to my sister, because she seems to be better rounded at speaking about feelings.
Really?
And I think there's two main bits that I've picked up on. It's what we've tried to incorporate within our three main areas, which are opportunity, vulnerability, and accessibility.
Absolutely.
And it's the opportunity and vulnerability, I think, that we missed out on a lot growing up. Opportunity, I remember when the girls in our school they had their lesson about women's health.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was boys out the room. We'll put a video on.
You're so right.
In the other room, boys out the room. But what we missed out on there is you guys got to learn about your bodies.
Yes.
You guys got to learn how things happen at different rates. Things can happen without reason or warning. Yeah. But also it gave you the opportunity to listen to vulnerabilities of other people and their experiences around their bodies and what's going on in their life. Yeah. And it gave you that listening and talking and being able to open up about that type of topic whilst also taking in education about why things are happening.
Yeah.
And we missed out on that. And if you think about the situation as well, the second one that I think about is opportunity. Mm-hmm. When we used to go on sleepovers, my sleepovers were so different to my sister's, let me tell you.
Okay, yeah. Let me in on a bit of what your sleepovers were like, because I'm guessing mine would have been a bit more like your sister's.
I reckon so. So my sleepovers, we'd either go around our mate's house, we'd be out in the garden playing football.
Yeah.
Or we'd be playing video games. Mm-hmm. Or we'd be watching a film.
Yeah.
Or we'd be playing something like Manhunt or like hide and seek or something. Yeah. Something, doing something.
Active, surface level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'd come home and they'd be like, "Oh, what did you talk about?" And I was like, "What do you mean talk?" Yeah. Like, we're doing stuff. Like, I go around because he's got a new game, or I go around because they've got the best telly to watch films on, or I go around because he's got the biggest garden.
Yeah.
Like, but my sister used to come back and she'd be like, "Oh, we just chatted." I was like, "Well, chatted about what?" And she was like, "Oh, well, we did like 5 things we like about each other, 3 things we change about ourselves, 3 hottest boys in school, all that type of stuff that we also didn't have the opportunity or didn't create the opportunity to actually sit down, speak and listen."
Why is that? Did you ever think, though, looking back as a young Luke, did you ever think, "Oh, I remember having like a bit of a down day and I wish I could just speak to someone about it at the time"? Or are those feelings just don't exist, but are they just not there? Are they not present? Do they not feel like you had to speak to somebody? Because you are so right. And when I go back to what you mentioned about your 3 pillars, and I looked on your website, and they are your 3 pillars, and you've explained now what they are and why they're important. But it's why don't we have the same kind of opportunities at school and growing up as boys did? Boys and girls had different opportunities.
Different pathways, really.
Different pathways.
I think that's just the way it is. And when you say, did you notice anything? Not really. No. We were like sport focused. We were pushed in that direction. We were just going on what the school system and what the system, the way it would take us. Yeah. And what our parents knew. Yeah. And if you look at the generation now, we are much more of a generation that's taken an interest in mental health. We've brought the topic to the surface. Yeah. And now we're picking apart the past because we've got a topic and information about what this is.
So true.
But it's also given us the ability to pick apart a lot of what our parents missed out on, and a lot of stuff, and especially older men, how they struggle to be vulnerable, because what makes a man has changed.
Absolutely. There's a stigma around men having to man up, and you've got to be protective, and you can't show your feelings. But I feel like that is such a common phrase still used today that's really unfair in today's society, because I can't obviously speak from a man's point of view, but that's why I had to have you on today, Luke, because I just want to learn about this and think there are so many men out there who are struggling and don't have an outlet, don't know where to go, don't know how to speak about their feelings or even communicate their feelings. So it's interesting when I ask you about what was it like growing up as a young kid, but maybe that's passed down right through our parents and what they knew. They've never heard about imagine like them at our age talking about mental health and men have to speak out about their feelings more. I couldn't see it being a thing back then.
No, because I think what's increased now compared to what we had back then is, in a lot of ways, in education, in pathways, in who you are as a person, who you're identified as, and also your, I guess your industry, and if you go to work or not, or where you work, is choice.
Yeah.
Like, we've got so much more choice now, so we can choose to be vulnerable, but that's breaking these stigmas that do exist, right? But I think the element as choice has opened up this topic of conversation to be like, okay, this is something, we are giving more men choice to do what they want to do, and a lot of them still revert back to what they know or what's safe, and that what is not a lot of the time good for their mental health.
Completely agree.
I think what we're really missing in that sense is what we got when we were shoved out those classrooms is education on ourselves and on what's going on up here and what the hell's happening from schools, from understanding like our own minds, why choices are made, how they're going to benefit us, benefits of exercise on your mental health, not only just your physical health. Yeah. Why we're going out and playing, running around the playground, and why it's good for you, why I feel better when I come in before I go out and I'm itching looking at that playground.
So true.
Why?
Yeah. And I remember there was a time I've been to counselling, quite happy to admit that, and I think it's a really good thing for people to go to. But I remember fighting kind of like fighting it for a while, like, I'm not doing that, I don't want to do that. And then someone said to me, if you had a broken leg, you would go and get that fixed, wouldn't you? You wouldn't leave it. So why wouldn't you also not fix your mind, but help your mind and help your mind get better? Yeah. And that completely flipped the switch for me. And if only like some more guys and more men could be more receptive to that thought as well of, I feel a bit shit and maybe I should reach out and get some help. Yeah.
I think this comes back to why we are where we are and what we want to do as 2 Pints Deep. And us men are creatures of habit. Yeah. And we're also quite proud.
Yes.
So if you tell us therapy is the answer, we'll do everything we can to try and prove that therapy isn't the answer.
Absolutely.
But if we get a choice of what could be the answer, is it therapy? Is it talk in circles? Is it this run club that talks about their mental health when they go? Yeah. Is it this golf club? Is it what's becoming more popular now, men's sheds, where you go and just fix things with people in a shed and in an environment like that, standing shoulder to shoulder and having chats? But the most important thing we need to give men in this battle that we're facing, I think, is choice. Yeah. And they need to find what's right for them, so it becomes habitual choice rather than just, I'll do this off a whim, and then 3 weeks down the line, I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah, don't keep the habit up. Absolutely. Your lovely mum, what was she like?
What was she like? I actually spoke at a funeral, which makes all the fact that I couldn't speak about it quite wild, because I did a speech at a funeral.
Wow. Which must not have been easy.
No. And then I feel like I couldn't do the easy bit and talking about it after, but it just didn't make sense to me at the time. But what was my mum like? She was kind, caring, a great mum, ditzy in the best ways, in the funny way. Yeah. Yeah. But she'd never hurt a fly, and she was one of those people that just gets on with everyone. Yeah. She was a little bit of a social butterfly, but never being the centre of attention, always just going from group to group to group and just being like, just being there. Yeah. And we had some really good times growing up. My dad was working a lot in London, so my mum was the primary carer, really, I'd say, for us for a lot of the time. Yeah.
And us being you and your sister.
Me and my sister.
Oh, that's so nice.
Because Dad had long hours in London. Yeah. Before, in the sort of late 2000s, he had to retire for his ill health as well. So until then, we'd had a really good childhood. We went on holidays. We had made some amazing memories. Yeah. We'd not really been touched too much directly by death, anything like that. We'd had a few in the family. My uncle passed away when I was quite young, but we hadn't really been touched apart from that. So when it hit with Mum, it was a real, I guess, poignant moment for me. Absolutely. But when you mentioned earlier, like, how are things growing up, and like, did you notice anything? I feel like I was quite, I don't want to say lucky, but lucky with the age I was at for when it happened.
Really?
Because I felt like...
Wow, that's something you wouldn't hear anyone say.
I was in between things.
Yeah.
And something hadn't just started. I hadn't got a taste of it. And I wasn't still trying to... My mum still wasn't teaching me all the stuff. And I was growing up.
Yeah. How old were you when...
I was... Good question. I was 23. 23 at the time.
Still so young, though.
Still so young. But I've got friends who lost parents when they were like 14 and 10.
Oh my gosh.
And that's probably why I feel a little bit more lucky. And when you speak about, did you notice anything to your mental health earlier? These people, these young people, these children are having to grieve and understand what loss is at such a young age, that they may have noticed something when they were a little bit younger.
Absolutely.
But luckily, I was at a point where I could kind of understand it a little bit.
Okay.
And I guess in the end, find my own pathways to deal with it.
Yeah. So when you came back, Luke, didn't you? You came back from Australia. You had a week.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What was that? What was that like? The aftermath of your mum passing. You have all this grief piling on top of you with no outlet, as you said. You only had 2 places that you properly found when you wanted to seek help. You're trying to protect your dad as well and make sure he's okay. I'm guessing also your sister. You were going through what we were just about to go into horrible British winter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's enough to make anyone
in Lancashire
feel
as
crap.
well, which it is horrible.
Yeah. What is that feeling like for someone who's not been in your position? What's that feeling like?
Isolating, really was. And when you lose someone, you're so surrounded by people. Like, people are coming around the house all the time because they want to come and check in on us. Yeah. You're getting messages of your mates that are checking in on you. But after a couple of weeks, after the funeral, real life comes back. And those mates have got their work and their things going on. And
they're ticking on in their world. And
I really struggled to be like, how are people just going back to normal life? My mum's died. Yeah. Like, I couldn't really work it out. And that was a form of it was a part of my loss and my grief that I was going through at the time. But it was incredibly isolating I was isolated by my thoughts, but not in person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. You're around people.
Yeah.
But you're,
not saying much, but saying a lot.
Absolutely.
Like, just to try and, I guess, make people think that I was all right.
Yeah.
Because then the conversation wouldn't get any deeper and further.
Yeah.
If people were like checked in and be like,
You're
I'm fine, yeah.
Absolutely.
Bit of energy. But as soon as that door closed again, or as soon as that phone went down, it was and completely different.
Yeah.
And trying to mix between the two is just so tiring as it is. So yeah, it was a really tough period.
Did you feel like you were almost living 2 separate lives of this Luke who's like, I'm okay, I'm getting shit together, I'm helping Dad, I'm helping him, but then behind closed doors you are falling apart mentally, emotionally.
Yeah. And I'd been someone different and refound myself over the 2 years I was in Australia. And I know you say go away and find yourself and all that jazz.
No, but I can imagine.
I had a good job. It was a job that I hadn't been doing before.
Yeah.
You go over and meet people and talk to people from different ages and different countries, and you learn about things. And I come back and I'd be like, right, I feel like when I come back, I'm going to be the best version of myself.
Wow.
And then when I came back, I didn't know who to be. I didn't know whether to be the person that my friends knew 2 years ago to try and get closer to them after my mum was passed away, or try and be this new person that I actually didn't have the confidence to be because your world's just been ripped apart.
No,
so
of course.
I just felt lost more than anything, just between two, between a rock and a hard place, really. I didn't really know who to be and what to do. And
can't even imagine that feeling. And it's interesting you say that. You were 23 when your mum passed. I read up on, do you know Calm?
Yes.
Yes, they are fantastic.
They are brilliant.
And I read up a fact about them, and that the age group between 18 and 24 are the loneliest age group.
We're the most connected, but the loneliest we've ever been.
That is terrifying.
It is, isn't it?
And you think, I'm 25 now, and I'm just thinking about all my other... It makes you think about everyone that you're seeing on Instagram or seeing online. Like, you must have been seeing your mates, and you think, great, they're all like having so much fun, they're doing this, they're absolutely fine. When really no one knows what's going on behind closed doors in someone's personal life. So that makes me really think when you say about you being 23, but yet that's like the loneliest age to be, as facts state.
And they're less connected now. I mean, that's a COVID generation of going through university where you just learn so much, and it was all done online for a lot of them. And
oh my word, couldn't imagine it.
You miss so much in terms of the actual like genuine connection, the friendships you build, the lessons you learn, and now everything's so head down rather than head up making connection, isn't it? And it's a scary place to be, but something that we want to be proactive with rather than reactive, rather than waiting for these numbers to rise in terms of people affected. We can see the way it's going. Yeah. And we can see why it's going that way. Yeah. So what stuff can we put in place to connect people in real life and make people feel less lonely by giving them places to go, and so they know where to go so they can make their choice. And that's another big reason for us to be able to do that, because there's a lot of men out there as well that are a little bit older that may have split up from their wives, and COVID hit us all and put pressures on marriages and different, like it hit us all in so many different ways despite age, background, location. And loneliness is one of the biggest problems, I think, when it comes to mental health. And when we are lonely, we isolate like I did. Yeah. And we don't go immediately to help.
No, and lose confidence as well.
Exactly. So connection's a big issue and a big area we do need to continue to build on.
Which is so difficult when we're living in a world full of iPhones, Macs, all these sort of online technology. It's just so difficult. When you started 2 Pints Deep, Luke, what goals did you set out to achieve?
So our first goal, we obviously tried to set out as a podcast, but the initial, it just didn't quite work out with my work commitments at the time. So we just carried on as a community. But our initial goal was to be made by the average man for the average man.
I love that tagline.
So sticking right to what I always say is when people come to me like, right, let's do this program or let's run this event. My first question to them is, can Johnny, who's on the dole in an isolated location in the UK, come to it? Yeah. If that answer's no, we need to have another think about what we can do. Everything needs to be accessible that we do, because mental health shouldn't have a cost to it. No. Or not. mental health, I guess, solutions. So we set out to try and be as accessible as possible. Obviously, if they're up in Sunderland, they're not going to make an event in London. But how can we replicate this event up there to give them an opportunity as well? If not, we're going to have to rethink and find a way that we can. Okay. But our initial aim was to save one person, and it still is, because the power. Look what I've done since and because of my mum and what I've built. Yeah. And I often think, if she was still here, I wouldn't be doing this. And one life, the effect it can have not only on that person being here, but the people around them as well. Yeah. One life is massive.
Absolutely.
Huge in terms of impact. And imagine, like, if you save one life, in your life, it's just wild. It's crazy. What an achievement.
You think, like, something most people would never, ever get to do.
And I think if you try and, I guess, aim too high and be like, I want to save 5,000 lives, it's just like, but that one becomes less then. The impact of that one, of how you view it, becomes less. So focus on the one. If you're trying to save one person, you'll think a lot more about the ins and outs and the details. You'll end up saving more that way, because when you're focusing on the one, because more people will be part of a journey that doesn't have holes and gaps in it.
Absolutely. And it feels so rewarding. Have you had any feedback on 2 Pints Deep from people who have reached out to you to say, Luke, thank you?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
We've had so many messages, and it's been amazing to speak to some of these people that have never found something that they can associate to. Yeah. And because we're not afraid to say, we're not asking you to change anything in your life.
No.
Just start talking a little bit more and here's how you can do it. They're just like,
so simple.
It's a breath of fresh air that they can continue with the life that they know without feeling like they have to uproot it and change everything to try and be healthier in their mind.
Yeah.
Because we're giving them the tools to slowly, I guess, better their life rather than it being upheaval.
Absolutely.
And we've had some amazing messages, just a lot about the name, just be like, I so get this. Like, I get this feeling. I get that. I get what you're trying to do here.
I'm not even a guy and I get it. And I told my colleague about it and I was like, 2 pints deep. Like, it's so to the point. It's so clear. I love it. I just really love it. I think you nailed it so much on that title.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we've started building communities in Manchester and London. So we do run clubs, which has been brilliant. And the people that have come down to the growth that they've had. And I spoke to one of the guys' girlfriends who's been coming down and she's just like, oh, he speaks so much more about things now. And we haven't changed anything. It's not been like an upheaval. All we do is the start of every run club, we get lads together and we say, and girls invite down as well. And we say, here's one question for you to ask a stranger on this run. A stranger being someone that you've not met who's doing the run as well, not being like, run up to a stranger and just be like, what's your name? But
so to say, you're really pushing them out their comfort zone.
But something, I think one of the biggest, I guess, factors in people not coming to events or communities like us is they'd be like, okay, when I get there, who am I going to speak to and what am I going to say?
Oh, that social anxiety can eat you up.
Eat you up. So what we're trying to do is reduce that by giving them the question that they can then talk about, and then the people are expecting to hear the question as well. So it initiates conversation. And we try and make the question as, I guess, opening as possible, that if you wanted to get a little bit deeper, you could. So an example of that is, what did you want to be when you grow up, when you were younger? And what are you now? Yeah. So there's a little bit of perspective there of like, when I was younger, I wanted to be this. When I'm older now, because you can talk about the journey in between as well.
Absolutely.
If not, you can just answer the question. Yeah. But you can talk about the journey in between. So I think in terms of impact, what I love about 2 Pints Deep is we'll never know our true impact. And
so true.
I love that.
Do you?
One of our first messages that we received was from a lad over in Northern Ireland. I was like, oh, how have you found it? And he was like, oh, it just came up on my feed. And he was like, I just wanted to let you know, we had our first 2 Pints Deep meet-up tonight and 19 lads came to the pub and we all sat and chatted about our stuff.
And you're not there?
And I was like,
this is happening
thanks for letting me know. Yeah. Do you want some beer, Matt?
Yeah. Do you want me to come over? I'm more than happy to.
But I didn't know that was going on. And the impact of people being like, you know what, after a couple of pints, I'm going to say something next that I will never hear from and will never know. I think that's so beautiful. I think there's so many people out there and so many communities that are trying to claim stuff and say, this is us. I think it's just nice to be able to have impact and leave it to your imagination of what that impact is. And it's real life and real conversation that you can't measure. You really and I think it's just beautiful. So
that is that must make you feel so fulfilled.
It does, yeah.
It's interesting because you just said about one of the lads' girlfriends spoke to you, and it's with guys that are struggling with problems or feeling like they can't open up. It also affects the people they're living with, their family, their friends. So for that girl to come up to you and give you a perspective of how that's impacted him positively must have felt amazing.
It does. We get a lot of partners, fathers, mothers messaging the page. We got a mother message the page actually to say, I don't know who you are and what you do. It sounds like the start of Taken. It's not. I will find you. But my son really struggles with mental health issues.
Wow, okay.
He never speaks, never comes out of his room, but I was cleaning his room and found this beer mat and it's made me feel a lot better that he's brought this home from wherever he was.
What did he bring home?
One of our beer mats.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Whilst we're talking about it then, this is the fantastic beer mat and I was so keen on Luke bringing these because these are bloody amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And it just... Sorry, interrupting you, but yeah, so he found one of... he found one of those. She
found one of those in his room and she just felt instantly a little bit warmer that he's trying to... Or making a decision to be like, you know what, I get that. Maybe I'll bring it home. Okay, I will bring it home. It might have been the graphics. It might have been something else. It might not have been actually, I'm going to seek advice. But it's nice. That's a step. And the mum felt a lot better. So when you talk about people around the people that are suffering, it's so important. 25% of our following is female.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. And if you think about that, they've all got, the reason that they're following a men's mental health and suicide prevention is they've got their dads, their husbands, their brothers, their uncles, they've got their men in their life that they either worry about or want to keep on top of in terms of what's important. So
absolutely.
So yeah, it's men's mental health is a genderless battle that we're all going to face. And that sounds a little bit wild, but 75% of all suicides at the moment are male.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that women don't have their own mental health, and women have their own suicide issues as well. And it's not to be just let's focus on men, but you focus on the bigger number first.
Yeah.
And the men's rising at the moment, and I think we face a bigger battle not only in the UK but worldwide with grappling men's mental health. And I do think we'll find that a lot of women's mental health will improve if we can solve men's, because the amount of strains on relationships, the amount of I think our inability to often converse, listen, talk in the right way does impact mental health across all genders.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really terrifying. 75%. That's well over half.
Yeah.
And that's an alarming figure. And yeah, it makes you feel quite sad actually, because you think, why there are so many people out there who are struggling and just can't find the right help. I think that's really sad. What do you think is the best way? Like 2 Pints Deep, you start up these like coffee mornings, running groups. What would you say is the best way to create a safe space for men to openly speak about their struggles if they weren't going to sit down and have a pint, or they couldn't bring themselves to come out on one of your runs?
Yeah, I think it's thinking about several different things, not just putting something on and hoping that they'll talk.
Yeah.
It's giving people tools to talk.
Okay.
So like we do with the question at the start, like we do with the beer mats, a big thing that we want to do is around that opportunity piece, and that pillar that we want is create the resources that can be ignored. You can choose to ignore that beer mat.
Yeah.
But what if there's a question on the back? And what if you go, actually, lads, should we answer this question?
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's, whether you're in a coffee shop, whether you're in a festival, whether there's an opportunity there to have a conversation around it.
Absolutely.
But I think taking into account environment, taking into account the person that you're with, taking into account the timing of this conversation, to be able to create conversations is really important. So we do the run club is directly after work.
Oh,
and
is it?
A lot of the stuff is to de-stress. Okay. Because if we did it in the morning, there might be less to stress about. So think about the timing of these communities, these groups. Think about, if you were to attend, when would be the perfect time for you to attend?
Right. What
type of environment would be a good environment for you to come and talk about this type of stuff?
Yeah.
If, let's say you're going to do a coffee shop and you're going to do a little coffee morning, it's probably not best to go to the busiest one that has a long queue and there's no tables inside.
Yeah.
Because then, again, restricting, there's reasons to not have and sit down and have an actual conversation.
Yeah.
So all these types of stuff in terms of environment have got to be taken into account, but providing tools as well. Think of different ways to get people talking about topics.
Yeah. And
have the patience with those topics that the first, second, third, fourth, fifth topic or fifth week doesn't have to relate to mental health. Right. Then the sixth week you can get people talking first.
It's simply just having those connections.
Exactly. Because once people start talking, whatever topic you introduce, they'll talk.
Yeah.
But it's breaking that barrier first of conversing with the people within the community or within the area, I think is really important. So not rushing it. It doesn't have to be rushed. It can't be rushed.
There's no time scale on these things either. No. I think with 2 Pints Deep, it's so nice because you've almost created your own safe space as well, Luke. What better way?
Free therapy. No, I'm joking.
And it's like you've created this world where you're inviting people in. You're also making connections, Luke. You're also speaking out. I'm sure you're speaking out more openly than you ever have done in your life. Mm-hmm. And it was actually quite shocking when I saw what you were about and everything. Because I think, oh my God, he's like a young lad. He's like, and he's really open about this. I think a lot of the time, mental health would be you go to the doctor, they get you to fill out a form, and you tick all these things you're feeling, and it becomes really like, oh God, this is quite daunting, quite like medical and really dark and serious and scary. And it can be quite dark and scary, and it is a serious thing that needs to be taken more serious and it needs to be highlighted more. But just in terms of it, you as the face of it, it's this lovely graphic, 2 point sleep, it's very open, it's like a cool, you almost just want to be part of it as well. Like you want to go down and see what it's about. And you make it so easy for people to go that it's hard to say no. Yeah, of course. It should be. Yeah.
And you're absolutely right in what you say.
Which is accessibility,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yes.
You're absolutely right in what you say with how often mental health is or has been in terms of finding a solution.
Yeah.
One of our main aims is to try and just get rid of this prescriptive and clinical conversation around mental health and just bring in when you're a couple of pints in down the pub, that type of it's important that someone stands at the front of it, and I'm happy to do that. I've learned a lot about myself doing it. There's been times where I've been like, I really don't want to say this, but if you're going to be a leader for people to do something that's so huge in terms of opening up a different part of them that they want to be closed forever, you've got to go full hog yourself. So a lot of people didn't know about my gambling issues, but this has all come out since, because I've got to be in 100% if I want 100% an actual impact in this.
Absolutely.
There can't be like any little ghosts in my closets or anything like that. It's got to be like open book.
Literally.
And I think what surprised a lot of people, and I sat down with my mates back home last week and they were like, I've learned a lot about you in this TikTok series you've been doing about opening up.
It's your own mate.
And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting, but I'm glad. And they're like, yeah, I really like it. And just that, I think, is really, really nice to, because I'm so normal as a bloke. Like I've not got this magic wand. I've not got this magic formula. I've been through stuff which allows me to look back and try and have perspective on what that was like, and know that things do get better when times get hard. But apart from that, I don't come from a massively rich family. I don't come from a mental health background. I've never been to a mental health first aid training.
Wow.
I'm just a normal bloke that's been through some stuff. And I think that's what a lot of other normal blokes just need to be like, I can be like him.
Yeah.
And just a bit more open. And this is how. Not to say that people want to be like me, but in terms of the, I guess, the openness.
Be like me.
Lessons to be Luke Barrow.
Yeah.
But just be a little bit more open with things. And I've managed to do it, unfortunately needed to do it after the tragedy 5 years ago, but other people can do it as well. I think that's the beauty of what we're doing, really.
Yeah. And you're so inspiring, Luke. Like, come on, at the end of the day, it's really inspiring. What did your friends think? Because you've just said your mate watched you online and he's seeing another side of his friend he's known for years, and he's like, wow, God. What did your friends think when you were like, I'm going to start this up and see where it goes?
Well, oh, you're not going on TikTok, I think. I'm not going to be one of them, but like, going around recording like, hey.
Hi guys, welcome back.
Get ready with me to go. No, we are not doing any of them.
Oh, I do though. No, I'm joking. Your face.
My friends have been really supportive. I think it's opened doors for a lot of them as well, because there's been some of them that have lost parents and not really spoken about it. So it's opened a lot of doors in terms of that. And some of them admit it to me, I don't get it. Like, I don't, okay. I'm actually, like, haven't really been touched by mental health yet, but I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I like that honesty. We wouldn't have had that conversation either if someone hadn't stood up and done it. No. And I think within friendship groups, we do have now a responsibility to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
With the suicide statistics being as they are, 13 men every day in the UK that take their own life. Or lose their life to suicide. I should phrase it better. Or lose their life to their mental health, probably.
13 men a day.
13 men every single day. And the thing with friendship groups is, until it's one of your mates, it's not real. We're really reactive with this subject at the moment, and we can't be. No. Because look, that's such a big thing to be a factor to make you realise things, right?
Yeah.
you're losing someone that's one of your group. So I think what we're really trying to do, especially in friendship groups, is twist this narrative of mental health being lonely and something you go through on your own to being a kind of team sport and getting into the Wolfpack mentality. Like, I'm going to speak about my feelings in case George over there needs to hear it or Connor over there needs to hear it. Yeah. Because if I don't speak, they might not speak. And if they're struggling, what could happen?
All because one person spoke.
Yeah. And we've got to have our responsibility and vulnerability and start speaking about our emotions a little bit more. I'm not saying go in and be like, right, lads, I've written a novel. Do you know
I'm laying my cards down.
But why don't we talk about when we're really happy or excited?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to always be doom, but get used to speaking about feelings a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be surprised on how much is picked up on in your friendship groups. And even if they disagree, be like, no, I don't feel like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. There's a topic. There's a little sign. I need to check in with them after this.
Yeah.
But we need to start having those conversations because until one of our best piece of content or most popular on Instagram was "Don't wait till it's your mate."
Oh.
And it couldn't be more true.
It's too late at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? When I was preparing my notes for this interview, the first time, and I was thinking back, and I was like, when did I first hear about men's mental health in particular? And I know exactly when it was. When Robin Williams committed suicide. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly how I found out. And that was the biggest shock to everyone in the world. This happy, upbeat, full of life guy was the laugh that everyone, like, he was the most amazing person. You just think you could never have imagined any of that. That when I found out that was how he'd passed, I thought, nah, this can't be right. And that's where you just suddenly think, when you ask people, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. No, really, like, how are you? But so, like, as we've been discussing, a lot of people aren't at the place where they feel like they can just openly be like, yeah, actually this. Because also people probably feel like they're burdens, don't they? And that's the worst feeling to have, that you feel like you're a burden. I'm not going to like put all my problems on you. And majority of my mates back home are boys. They're a big group of them. There must be about 8 of them. And I think about them a lot. I always think about them, and I would hate to think any of them are suffering and don't feel like they can speak about it. And so I hope they watch this today, because I just want them to know that there is always, that it's okay to feel the way that you do, and don't ever suffer in silence.
And that burden, I guess, barrier, it is a barrier to conversation, feeling like a burden. But a lot of that is because we're not creating the space and time to have the talks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it needs to be 6 p.m. every week. You all open the group chat, be like, right, it doesn't have to be that sort of structured, and it can be. It doesn't have to be that. It can just be sit down, a good opportunity, half time at the football.
Yes.
Nothing's going on. 15 minutes, what are you doing? Don't have your phone, just be like, right. You sat down at the pub with 6 of your lads, being like, how's everyone been?
Literally, best.
And people are a little bit like, oh, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean, how have I been? Because how are you now is a greeting, it's not a... Hi, you're right, is a greeting.
You're right, yeah. I wasn't asking for your whole story.
And some people, like, if you were to go and someone's go, hi, you're right, and you were to go, actually, I've been really struggling lately, they'd be like, what the hell is it? Like,
you're like, well, that was just a greeting.
I'm just showing you 2 tables, sir. I was like, well, you asked. Do you know what I mean? But,
well, now you asked.
But time and space needs to be created for these conversations.
You're so right.
Even if it's just a minute, 2 minutes. We do something every week where when we do our presentations, corporate presentations, that type of stuff, we do little things to take away. And one of those is we get everyone to open up their phone, or ask people to open up their phone and put in a time. 11 o'clock on Tuesday. Reminder every single week. Text a mate.
Takes 30 seconds.
If that,
yeah.
And what if it's the right time?
Yeah.
What if it's the right, like, thank God you messaged.
Yeah.
So easy. Different mate every time. Checking in, and it allows you to have a bit of consistency with making sure that you're doing your bit.
Absolutely. It's another reason I'm so excited to bring you on today is because personally, I'm someone who's wear my heart on my sleeve. My mates know exactly what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, what's going on. My mum is literally like my shadow, knows everything about me. And that's why I was so intrigued to know that girls, we do sit and we speak deeply about our emotions and everything is laid out on the table, whereas guys don't. And you're right, it's creating a safe space where they feel like, no, I know this person wants to hear what I'm going to say. So
all the time, the amount of
Yeah.
times we go to the pub for the football,
yeah,
or we meet up to play golf, or everything has to have a purpose.
yeah.
Doesn't.
No, the opportunity's there every time
Yeah.
you're with your mates, aren't there? Really?
Yeah. If there's a pool table, should we play pool?
Yeah.
What? Because you don't want to have a chat with me?
Yeah.
Something to do with. We are doers naturally, and this is why those men's sheds are brilliant. So the men's sheds are, they've actually made. Listened to a podcast recently. They made it government funded in Australia.
Oh right.
And these are sheds that men can come to, and they just bring things that need fixing.
Right, this is what you were saying about earlier. I love this idea. Can you tell me more about it? I'm really intrigued.
So let's say they've got a hedge trimmer.
Yeah.
It hasn't need fixing. So they'd bring it into this men's shed and you'd fix it with a group of other men.
Okay.
And it's a place that you can come and just do something,
Yeah.
but chat if you want as well.
Okay.
And I think we're doers, and there's a statistic, and it's spoken about as well. I can share the podcast after.
Yeah.
It's actually a Stephen Bartlett podcast.
Love him. Yep.
And it's one of the podcasts where they're like, men have more conversations shoulder to shoulder than they do face to face. So how can we recreate that? And I think if you sit, and that's another barrier to conversation, we're more likely to speak about our stuff when we're next to someone. Football, car journeys,
Okay.
playing golf.
Why is that?
We probably don't have the confidence to be face up, and there's probably something instinct and inside us that's like face up, threat.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see that.
Face up, threat.
Yep.
Like if you were to face up an animal, often it'd charge you if you were facing. If you stand side to side and don't make eye contact with it.
Yeah, of course.
It's more likely to.
Yeah. So not an intimidating approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think there has been some studies around it to say that that is factual. So these guys just stand in the shed, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
You fix that bit,
Just
I'll
doing
fix
their
this bit.
thing.
You've refused that, and they come away thinking, oh, yeah, fixed a few things, but I also said a few things that I'm really happy that I got off my chest. Brilliant.
That's a really great idea. I love that. Luke, since starting 2 Pints Deep,
Yep.
what were the biggest risks? So you left a corporate stable job.
Yeah.
What were the biggest risks and what have been your biggest successes?
Good question. Biggest risk, obviously, finance.
Yes.
Starting a charity, it's not the most glamorous in terms of money, and at the moment I don't have an income and I live in London, which is wild. So it is a big financial risk, but everything good starts with a risk, and
Of course.
if it wasn't a financial risk, maybe other people would have jumped and done it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest risk as well. Success is personal growth.
Absolutely.
It's been massive for me. I didn't used to like standing in front of people. Now I can stand in front of people and
confidently
talk. Still get nervous, of course I do, but it's something that I've battled myself.
Yeah.
But also for me, the final stage of grief is acceptance.
Okay.
And I'd really struggled with accepting what had happened to my mum, and that it was my mum, because she ended up dying from it's a kind of like mouth cancer basically that you get mostly if you smoke or something like that. She never smoked a cigarette in her life and stuff like that. So acceptance in terms of the facts made it hard to accept for me. Let's put it that way. But I wouldn't have done this if what hadn't have happened to her hadn't happened.
Of course.
So in terms of acceptance and legacy, my biggest success, I think, is the fact that I turned such a life-defining moment and period in my life into something so positive, and that's down to her legacy. So that's probably my biggest success.
And she would be so proud of you, Luke. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And we're coming towards the end of my chat with you, and I'm so sad because I feel like I could just speak to you all day. But I want to know, where would you like to see 2 Pints Deep? Where would you like to see this community, soon to be charity, in 5 years' time?
5 years, that's a lot of years. So once we become a charity, we're announcing a lot about what we're going to be doing.
Yes.
And I want to see us in 5 years to be solving the suicide problem from within communities all around the UK. So not trying to find this magic formula that's a one size fits all, listening to the people of different areas, different socioeconomic areas, with different barriers to connection, and putting our money in and creating things to solve that for them and putting that in place. So in 5 years' time, I'd love us to be, I guess, a sign for us. As I said, we can't really measure the impact we have, but a sign for us would be, is the intake into the people that we promote going up?
Yeah.
And is the suicide rate going down? And that'd be a big success for us. So 5 years, I'd like to see that. And also to be a name that's known and be like, oh, I can chat about my mental health because 2 Pints Deeper helped me do so. Because
it exists. And lastly, do you have a quote that you like to live by?
I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to say
Tell
two.
me, I love it.
Because there was a quote that actually tipped me over the edge to quit my job.
Tell me.
And that was, you're already living your worst case scenario.
Oh.
And I thought, you know what, in this situation especially I am.
Yeah.
What's the worst case scenario with 2 Pints Deep? It doesn't work out. I spend all my life savings or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just get another job. I'm back where I am right now.
So true.
I'm back where I am. I'm already living my worst case scenario, but you've got to try.
Absolutely.
And that comes to my second quote that I do live by.
Tell me.
And that is, life starts where your comfort zone ends. And if you're not anywhere near your comfort zone, you've got to do something to get there to actually feel what the best bits of life are, I think.
Life starts when your comfort zone ends. I love that. Luke, thank you.
No problem.
I'm so grateful that I got the chance to have you on today. You are definitely a person who's doing good. So that's why I created this pod, just for people like you. So thank you so, so much. And it's a topic, like I say, really, really does need to be covered more and spoken about more. So I think you're amazing, and I congratulate you on everything you're doing. And I know I speak for so many people who are feeling your positive ripple that is just flowing through the country. I just know it.
And thank you, by the way, as well, for creating a platform that allows people who do good or try to do good to hopefully either inspire others or get other people involved. And it's an amazing thing that you've created, and I hope it goes to
Thank you so much. I just think the world's filled with so much bad news at times. There needs to be something that just brings on people that can speak about these things that also are going unnoticed.
Yeah.
So, and you deserve that recognition for sure.
Thank you.
So, if anyone who's been watching today's episode, it's a bit of a tough one that we've discussed today, and I appreciate that. So, if there is anyone who has been listening today who has struggled in the past or is struggling now with their emotions or feeling like they haven't got a way to express their feelings, I'm not going to only just link 2 Pints Deep, because please do check it out, it's amazing, but I'm also going to post some links to other verified charities who can give some help and guidance for where to look for that help. So thank you so much, and just please remember that you're not alone in how you're feeling.